will go through the 12 best books on personal finance, because all the information you need to become rich is already out there, you just need to know where to find it. And to make it a little bit easier for you so you don't have to read through hundreds of books, I already picked the best ones and we'll do this in 4 different categories. The all-time classics that also include the basic principles, books with very practical advice, books on investing and books on mindset. So let's get started with the all-time classics. The Richest Man of Babylon from George S. Clason. This is one of the oldest books in personal finance and it follows those different characters in ancient Babylon, which is a city that was well known for its riches. And a nice thing about this book, and that is also what the author says, is that the rules of money, they don't change. They are as true now as they have been 6,000 years ago. And in this book you will learn important principles like saving money, paying yourself first, and also letting your money work for you. And that at a time where there was no stock market yet. The book introduces the 7 cures for a lean purse and the 5 rules of gold. And by following these different characters, it adds a nice story structure to it, which makes it easy to follow even though the language is a quite old language. The next one is Think and Grow Rich from Napoleon Hill. That is also an old one and he interviewed the most successful and rich people back then in the beginning of the 20th century and he condensed it into the 13 principles of riches. So this book is not so much about specific investment advice or what you should do with your money. This one's more of a mindset book and also a classic in personal development. So I would probably say this one falls more under the category of entrepreneurship and success, including financial success. And it is also one of the first books that made affirmations and visualization very popular, which later turned into like a real hype around manifestation. And it's about the crucial role the mind plays on the road to like huge financial success. And number 3 is Rich Dad Poor Dad from Robert Kiyosaki, which is probably one of the most famous personal finance books out there. This book is about a boy, the author, who grows up with 2 fathers, his own father, the poor one, and his best friend's father, the rich one. And in the book he describes like this journey where he learns from both his fathers, is partly even a little bit drawn between the 2 of them, and by that also has this nice story structure that makes it easier to learn and also to understand. The most compelling detail for me from this book is that his poor father is not actually some guy without a job who's homeless, but he's an academic, so a well-educated, smart man who has just a fundamentally different view on the world of money than the rich dad, the businessman. And that was an interesting confirmation that being academically smart doesn't necessarily transform into being rich, but it's the being smart with money that actually makes a difference here. So this one is first and foremost a mindset book, I would say, but it's also about investments and personal finance principles, like for example the difference between assets and liabilities. So you can learn a lot from this book in several different ways. Now let's talk books with a very practical approach. There we have I Will Teach You to Be Rich from Ramit Sethi. This book is literally a 6-week program to get your finances in order. He covers pretty much everything when it comes to personal finances, like credit cards and your credit score, setting up your savings plan and your investment plan, and automating everything so that you don't have to think about it all the time. He also introduces a conscious spending plan. And for me, one of the key messages of the book is that rich doesn't mean the same thing for everyone. And he wants you to define what really living a rich life means for you, and then spending generously on what you love and cutting down ruthlessly on what you don't love. I think that's a very nice way to look at the word rich. And he also introduces and recommends a long-term investment strategy, long-term buy and hold like I do on this channel, and also says that investing should be boring. He even gives you a blueprint for negotiations when it comes to a raise or to talking to credit card companies, and that's just very practical, very helpful, and he does it in a funny way. Then we have Money Master the Game from Tony Robbins. Now Tony Robbins is best known for his life-transforming coachings, usually successful, so when it comes to personal development and fulfilling your potential, Tony Robbins is probably the first name that will pop up. So naturally in this book he also has many ideas about the shifting of your perspective on money. So it's a bit of a combination between mindset training and investment advice, but by doing all that he also explains the basic principles in personal finance, and he also gives a step-by-step plan including goal setting and creating a plan, running concrete numbers, starting to save and starting to invest. And at the end of the book there were interviews with the most successful investors of our time, where he explores different investment strategies. If you're looking to become financially free, this book is for you. And then we have the Total Money Makeover from Dave Ramsey. Now Dave Ramsey has his own show where he gives advice to people with money problems and money questions, and in his book he covers all the basics of personal finance in detail. That includes budgeting, budgeting, creating an emergency fund, paying off debt. There's a big focus on paying off debt. Then also the concept of living below your means, and he created this 7 baby steps plan. So it's very practical to follow, very approachable, and also a real guide with which next step to take. He also clears up a lot of myths around debt and around money. And I think it's especially addressed to a wide population of the US where a lot of people are in debt. And if you are starting at zero with your personal finances or you are in debt, then this is the book for you. Now let's talk books on investing. So we have The Intelligent Investor from Benjamin Graham. That's an absolute classic when it comes to investment books, and it's also the favorite book from Warren Buffett. Benjamin Graham was a professor and also an investor who became known for value investing. That means to buy stocks that are undervalued. But in his book, he also covers everything you need to know about the stock market. So how the market works, what volatility means, how all of this is connected to human emotional behavior. Also, he differentiates between an investment and a speculation, and also explains how important risk managing is by diversification. So this book really lies the foundation for the principles of investing. Then we have the little book of Common Sense Investing from John C. Bogle. Now, John Bogle was the founder of the Vanguard Group, which is one of the biggest investment companies in the world, and he's practically the father of index investing. And he explains all of that in his book. That includes keeping the cost low, diversifying through your asset allocation, and also having a long-term approach. And I mean, he literally created the first low-cost index funds for individual investors. And the third one in this category is One Up on Wall Street from Peter Lynch. He was a successful fund manager of the Magellan Fund at Fidelity, and in this book he explains the strategy that he used. He especially became famous for saying that you should only invest in what you know, and his secret sauce is to invest in growth stocks. That means small companies that have a huge potential to grow. And he also has a checklist for the criteria to evaluate the companies. Now, if you followed me for a while, you know that I'm all for index investing, because individual investors trying to pick stocks lose most of the time, or at least don't gain as much as they could by just investing with the market. But if you are into stock picking and you maybe just want to try it out with a little part of your portfolio, then this could be an additional strategy to look at. And that brings us to our last category, which is mindset. And here we have The Psychology of Money from Morgan Housel. This book is relatively new, and it's about the relationship of us individuals to money. And that includes how our relationship to money is influenced by society, by the people surrounding us, also by history, and how closely it's tied to our emotions. In a way, this book is also about the principles of investing, just from a bit of another angle as the other books I talked about in this video. So it does touch, for example, on compound interest, also the role of risk in investing, the role of luck in financial success, and the danger of becoming greedy, and he has lots of interesting examples. And he also includes behavioral science and how cognitive biases are influencing our investment decisions. And finally, here come 2 books that have influenced me like no other. One is The 4-Hour Workweek from Tim Ferriss. So he redefines riches in a way that just speaks to our generation. So people born in the late 70s, 80s and after that, who just don't share this notion of the generations before to sacrifice your whole life for a job. And he introduces this concept of mini retirements, where you don't just work all the time and then enjoy it at the end when you're old, but testing out retirement and also enjoying your life when you're young. So it's about getting autonomy over your time, also by automating and outsourcing processes. This partly is definitely a business book, but it's also a book about productivity, about personal development, about stepping out of your comfort zone, and all of that to be able to live the life that you want and to get the most out of it in the now. And definitely for me, this book changed the way I'm thinking about my life and how I want to live it. And the other one is The Millionaire Fast Lane from MJ DeMarco. This is as much a book about business as it is about mindset. And through the whole book, he uses this metaphor of cars, which is very funny and also very memorable. And regarding the mindset, he differentiates between 3 types of people: the sidewalkers who are always one step away from broke, the slow laners who are working and saving all their life to then eventually become rich at the end of it, and the fast laner who wants to become rich fast. So he does simplify, and I can imagine that it come across as audacious, but I think for me it was exactly the way I needed to hear it in order to fully understand it. And then a big part of the book is how to become a fast laner and to build wealth fast by building a business. So if a normally paid job isn't for you and you're also more on the entrepreneurial side, this book is for you. If you would like a deeper analysis on any of the books I mentioned, let me know in the comments. You will find links to all of the books in the video description. I hope you got some value out of this. Thank you for watching and happy reading!